Welcome to Buzz Beat. On today's episode, we will be breaking down some film of Nick Smith Jr. We will be looking at 10 different clips of him at Arkansas and with the Summer League Hornets. We will look at both ends of the court, give our observations, both good and bad. But before we get into the podcast, be sure to give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. That goes a long way in helping us out and getting recognized by Hornets fans. Depending on when and how you're listening to this, you may have both the audio version and the video platforms available to you. I think we do a good job of illustrating the plays, but it's helpful to have both the audio and the visuals on screen. Our BuzzBeat Plus subscribers will get their hands on both of these different types of mediums a little bit quicker. And we thank you guys for your continued support on our Substack. Without further delay, let's break down some film on rookie Nick Smith Jr. All right, welcome in. We're back for another edition of Buzz Beat. We are on our third installment of this film breakdown. We've done one with Scoot Henderson prior to the draft. After the draft, we did one on Brandon Miller. And now today, we're going to do one on Nick Smith Jr. I'll be joined by Brian again for this one, but Spencer is also joining us for the first time on one of these film breakdowns. Spencer, how's it going?
Hey, doing good. No, I'm excited about this one. I might have enjoyed watching Nick more than any other Hornets rookie or second year player in summer league. There wasn't a lot to like, as we all know. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty excited about this guy. I really am. My comparison, just watching him, and saw him a little bit at Arkansas too, but really dug in summer league. He's got some Jordan Clarkson stuff going on. Like I know he's kind of been billed as a point guard for a while. I don't really quite see him as a point guard. See him more as like a creator, a scorer mentality, undersized too. But I think he has a utility that can stick in Charlotte beyond his rookie contract. I do.
Yeah. I think he's like any sort of like primary role for him would be, I think, like an outlier type projection. Not like impossible, but probably not something that's like bankable, barring some sort of like unforeseen, passing development or whatever. Yeah, I kind of like the Emmanuel Quickly comp with him. Like I see a little bit of Quickly just with like the shooting touch kind of. But we can get into that a little bit more. And yeah, I think Smith had some nice moments, and along with like Amari Bailey and James Najee were probably some of the like brighter spots of summer league. Not to like say Brandon Miller didn't have some good moments either. Like he did, but I think Smith, like getting this guy with the 27th pick is like they may have found something later in the first round here.
It'd be a great way to forgive the sins of that trade, the Jalen Duran trade. If Nick Smith turns out to be something, it's like, all right, well, we got lucky here.
At least they got something. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, can't say I've been thrilled with how the Hornets have managed really the last three drafts. But alas, it did seem like they found some good prospects, later in the 2023 cycle with NSJ and Najee and Amari Bailey too.
Yeah. And we'll get to a little bit of the summer league play, but we're going to also break down some clips of him in college, and we'll also see Brandon Miller, especially in these first several clips, because they do play obviously against Alabama in the SEC, and we have several clips from that game. So what we're going to do here, like we've done in the past, break it down into different categories. For Nick Smith Jr., we have three sets of clips. We have a movement offense, which includes cuts, backdoor cuts, dribble handoffs, things of that nature. We also have defense, both on ball, off ball, individual team defense stuff. And then our last set of clips is just a mixture from the summer league. So obviously not with his collegiate teammates, but with the Hornets, it may differ a little bit in terms of how he plays, both on the collegiate level, but also on the NBA level. So we just wanted to kind of separate that altogether. And we did get I guess, suggestion from some people on YouTube about maybe playing the clip one time through completely before we start pausing it and breaking it down. So we're going to go ahead and get into this. And if you're watching on the video version, the clips will come through and we will do our best to kind of go through the highs and the lows. So what we're going to do first is obviously let the first clip one play through here, and this one is in a game against Alabama. So it was a quick clip. This one, probably of all the clips, is probably not an involved one at all. I mean, it looks like early offense here with 5-out spacing, and the wing makes the pass to the big near the top of the key here. And Nick Smith Jr. looks like he's going to kind of cut away or screen away off the ball, but he comes back for that handoff. And let me play a little bit more here through this handoff, and rises up for this mid-range shot. And I think his man tries to fight through the screen, and the Bama big right here is in drop. There's a lot of space, and he rises up for this mid-range pull-up. And I think, to me, the best part, or my favorite part, again, this is a very simple clip that we're watching here, is the fact that he plants very hard before coming back to the ball, sets up his man. And I think the energy transfer for this shot is just smooth and balanced. It's a very, very smooth play for Nick Smith Jr. So nothing too complicated here, Spencer, but is there anything that stood out to you in this first clip?
Well, a few things. His footwork, you touched on it, the way he disguises what he's about to do. I mean, you can tell he really loses defender quickly. And that's just by him planting hard into his left side, like he's about to either go off a flare, a stagger, or screen down for a stagger coming the other way. And, this is one of the most exciting things about Nick Smith to me. He has an explosive step. And I think the more you get him off the ball in situations like this, the better he's going to be. He has one read here. It's just the big, right? And you talked about it's in drop coverage. I think one of the things that we'll see more of from Nick Smith right here as you pause it, he's reading that big. That big's in drop. A hesitation dribble, anything, that guy's going to blow by fives. If he can create more of a hesitation kind of move, hang dribble, what have you. But really, really impressive here. And I would say, too, his little mid-range jumpers, they always come, or they seem like they come from momentum a lot. They're almost like floaters with they're like floaters with a mid-range jump motion to them, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah. We'll just say, like, he has the those little hesitation hang dribble moves in the bag too. So it's like you do want that to be something that he feels even more sort of like empowered to get to, as he kind of like maybe wants to challenge guys more on these looks. I would just say, like, the reason why we decided to highlight these movement type sets is because this is a role that, at least speaking for myself, but I would imagine you guys probably feel a little similar, if not totally on board with me, is like, this is a role that I'm interested for Smith, starting next season and going forward. But, like, maybe occasionally some primary opportunities on the ball, but the majority of his sort of like live ball playmaking opportunities as sort of a zippy perimeter mover, handoffs, dribble handoffs, Chicago action, Miami action, pin downs, flares, ghost screens with LaMelo. And can he turn into a reliable secondary scorer, secondary creator? I think the scoring has the chance to be there on certain nights. We'll see where the efficiency and the playmaking sort of show up, but his strengths for this role: speedy guard, good burst. Spencer was talking about his first step, good burst coming in and out of those handoff actions. He's crafty, uses the hesitation and change of speed away from the ball, which I think work well in these actions and allow him to also create separation. Smart cutter, constantly moving, constantly cutting, all with the intention to score, which, like, you see in this clip too. And then the shooting touch, man. Arguably the best in the 2023 draft class. He's so good inside, 10 to 12 feet. You see it on floaters. You see it on the pull-up two here. Spencer was sort of just talking about how he, even on some of these pull-up twos, it maybe mechanically looks a little bit like the floater and the runners. again, really nice shooting touch, and I think it even showcases sometimes like with tough finishes around the rim. And on this possession, I just like that it's like he's decisive too. Um, He's got Nick Pringle in drop coverage. That's a really like athletic five. That's it. That's there in drop coverage. Nick Pringle can really move. He can really, really jump. And you see like Smith is able to basically get on top of him with that pull up two finish. Like Pringle contests this, but it's pretty late. Like I would grade this as like just an okay contest. And it's all because like Smith catches him back. And instead of like taking one more dribble and taking a floater, it's just boom, one dribble, pull up two from the elbow. That's really good stuff, in my opinion. So again, I like the quick decisiveness from Nick Smith being able to create separation and get to a rhythm too. That's for the most part is a pretty good look for him. And we can maybe talk a little bit more as we get into this sort of on like opportunities for him to do more on some of these type of like movement handoff looks.
Yeah, and I think all 3 of these clips happen to be from the Bama game, and we'll go ahead and get into the second clip here, still in the first half. So let's get to clip number 2 as you guys are watching this. It's he's actually defended by Brandon Miller there in
Yep.
transition. And you guys talk about the burst, first step, and all that type of stuff. The word that I always use to describe him is just like quick twitch. And I feel like he uses his twitch to try and throw Miller off balance here. He doesn't obviously break him down, but he passes it to his teammate who's planted near the nail here and just follows the ball, gets the ball right back. And I think because this is a transition play, a lot of players, I should say a lot of players, but some players are out of position. The big is having to drop back. And I think the big on Alabama right here is that Pringle again, I believe.
That's Charles Bediako,
Okay.
who they saw in summer league with San Antonio a couple weeks ago.
And I'm not going to rewind it, but in the start of the play, he's the guy that gets back first. He gets all the way to the rim, but it allows Nick Smith Jr. some momentum here to get all the way, not to the rim, but he kind of has like a little floater here. I think he misses.
Yeah.
But regardless, even with the miss, I loved his decisiveness. That's a word that you've used before, Brian, after the pass in terms of, passing it to the big, following it, getting that ball right back. I don't think this is a negative clip by any means. I just think
Mhm.
he missed the shot. So,
Yeah,
Brian.
yeah, I like this possession actually from Smith. I like the early offense. I like give it up, give the ball up, and then go back and get it. Something we've talked about with Smith already. We'll probably get into it a little bit more. Is like he's not stagnant once he gets off the ball. Like he keeps moving, which I think is something that can work really well next to someone like LaMelo, or just will be behoove him as he moves further into his NBA career. But I also like the quick, like flowing into the pitch and chase sort of like dribble handoff, which also turns into like de facto empty corner screen roll. Like you can see, just so happens like Arkansas has. I mean, the spacing is pretty bad on that play. There's like one, I think it's Devo Davis that's like almost at half court. Then there's one guy on the wing, and then Jordan Walsh is low in the corner, but he basically stays short corner. Like he doesn't like space out all the way. So when Smith comes off this handoff, Bediako, who's a good, not as athletic as Pringle, but is large and was a good drop center um, in college in Alabama's scheme. I like this. I mean, Smith has a tendency, I think, to settle for those push shots, the runners, the floaters. It's something we saw in summer league, I think, a decent amount too. And look, he's got great touch. He's got Tyler Hero, Tyrese Maxey, shot maker, special touch. So these aren't even like bad looks for him, but obviously, you'd probably like to see him probe a little bit more and explore the studio space and maybe even get downhill. In my notes, I've got, I don't hate the decision for him to go with the teardrop over Bediako, and certainly like Miller gets taken out a little bit with the screen by Mitchell here for Arkansas. My only sort of like gripe would be, if anything, I kind of wish Nick Smith Jr. when he senses Bediako kind of wanting to like get out of that drop and get up a little bit closer to like contest, sort of that manipulation point. You know, it would have been interesting if Smith had like looked for Mitchell on the dive here, whether that's a pocket pass or that's a lob. And he's so good. He's so good with the floater. You think he could really do the Trey Young sort of like
Yeah.
hang on to the ball? You know, kind of like I always think of it as like a tunneling thing in baseball, where your movements and stuff look the same versus a lob pass curling off the handoff or the floater, and it really puts the backline drop defender in a bind here. It's a little tough because Miller's so long. He's in rear view pursuit, and this would be a pretty tough snap second decision. And again, like the window might not be there because Miller, sort of like veering back on a kind of like a late switch almost. This could have easily been a steal or a turnover or a deflection if he tries the pass there. As opposed to getting the ball up on the glass and even if he misses, maybe creating an offensive rebound opportunity because Mitchell has the inside leverage there. So I think that would have been a little something you maybe would want to see with him a little bit more, and it's something he showcased at other times during his first year at Arkansas. And overall, like the passing needs work. He needs to be better in terms of placement and timing. But this is something as he's working in these actions with Williams or Mark Williams and Nick Richards and James Najee, like just to keep that guy diving, because there might be a second where like the lob is there or like a leading pocket pass is maybe there for a dunk instead of a floater. But yeah, Spencer, what's your read on this clip here?
I mean, you laid it out really well. There's one thing I would like to see Nick get better at, and that's not over dribbling. I mean, you see at the beginning, he's over dribbling, then he gets off of it, and he creates an advantage. And I think he has a very good understanding of his advantages are going to come when he's sprinting off the ball and not when he's on the ball. I would have just liked to see him take 2 more dribbles closer to the baseline, pick it up, throw it almost backwards to the big. Now he's got his defender trailing him on like a U curve kind of cut, opposed to just a lane line cut, right? So now he's got even more of an advantage. But that's pretty elementary stuff. I mean, I think that he'll see that and understand that quickly and say, oh yeah, if I make my defender run north and then change directions and then run south, like I have even more of an advantage now. So that would be my only real gripe here.
Are you talking about right here, Spencer, where you're saying go sideline here? Try to go sideline?
Yes. So if you could back up like 2 seconds, but don't worry about it if you can't. If he would just take that ball and get 2 dribbles deeper towards the baseline and then almost throw it backwards towards the elbow to the big. So right here, he stops there. He's not deep enough. He needs to get farther towards the baseline before he throws that to the big to create more of an advantage, because now he's running north and south. And now that means that defender is going to have to trail him, and that's going to be harder. He's going to create more of an advantage. So that would be my only gripe. But I think he will quickly understand when he's moving off the ball, that is his greatest utility offensively.
Yeah. Also, Richie, pause it right when he's like coming off the handoff too, if you wouldn't mind, because I do want to freeze it. And like one of the things people who are people who are going to defend Smith, I think there's some merit to this for a guy who had kind of a tough year after coming into the college season with top 5, top 7 prospect status. He dealt with an injury, something that he suffered during their preseason trip to Europe. But also like the context of Arkansas's offense. Like look at I know this is kind of in, secondary. I wouldn't define this as a transition possession. But again, like the spacing here is just so like he will not see it like this in the NBA, right? Like I don't know what Devo Davis is doing. He's in a totally non-threatening position, basically standing in the middle of the state, map. Of Alabama.
What city is he in right now? What city is he on that state?
Maybe in Birmingham. But in like someone like Walsh, I'm sure he's already gotten this drilled into his head with the Celtics. But like Walsh should be spaced to the corner, because like when Smith comes off this, like when I first saw it, I was like, you're like, well, could he have tried to get downhill all the way to the rim? But there's just no way. Like the paint is so packed. Like Bediako's in drop. There's another help defender with 2 feet in the paint in Miller's, also trying to get back into play after getting clipped out by the screen. So I think he made that. That's why, like, I don't think there's any sort of like, advantage build read to his left because there's no real good like kick out option, which is why the only thing I see, well, the only thought I have is like, well, either he's got to look to score or get this back to Mitchell on the dive because like uh, again, like he has only three guys he could pass the ball to here, and like one of them's in the short corner, one of them is screening and rolling, and another guy, I believe it's Ricky Council, who's like, Ricky Council's awesome, but is maybe not like a great catch and shoot guy or whatever. So I just look when people talk about or they sort of get to the context of Arkansas's offense, the spacing concerns, how it negatively impacted Smith. I think this is like we can literally point to a snapshot of it here as well.
Yeah, I had the same question mark as Spencer in terms of the initial like over dribbling. Could he have dribbled sideline a little bit more and to create an advantage that way? But once when he got to this point, you're right, Brian. It was kind of out of the question in terms of what he could do. The options were very, very limited.
I mean, Walsh has just got to vacate that space.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Even if you can't shoot it, I mean, it's just like, dude, just go stay in the corner.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't let the low man help defender have 1.5 feet in the paint. Like, like there's no space for Smith Jr. here. Like there are boxes and elbows, and again, like Walsh is standing in no man's land, and Davis is in. I mean, again, like he's standing on top of Tuscaloosa at the moment there.
All right, let's get to the third and final clip of this movement offense, and I'll let it play out. Here, it's obviously the same opponent in clip number 3. This is my favorite of the bunch in terms of this specific category. And as you see here, starting off, I think it's hard to tell, but Nick Smith Jr. does set that down screen for the ram action.
This is their like ram exit pick and roll. The Arkansas ran this a ton. Everybody runs this a lot now. Like the Hornets ran this under Borrego. They run it under Steve Clifford. Like a lot of teams have this in their back pocket now, and Arkansas used it a lot this past season.
And so you got Jordan Walsh setting this baseline exit screen, and he receives the pass in the corner and drills the 3. I'm starting to love ram action for whatever reason. Feel like I've just seen it a lot in these clips we've shown.
Yeah.
And I think involving the first screener, which was Nick Smith Jr. in this case, is always the interesting part because he's got to get out of there. Because when he sets the screen, they gotta find a way to get him out of, underneath the basket. And he does a good job of reading the screen in terms of the defender trying to shoot the gap. It's not like it's not the biggest kind of like angle that he's trying to take off there, but he does fade a little bit to the corner here. It's hard to tell because of the angle, but he kind of fades a little bit there to receive it and create, extra space for himself. So that's really all that I saw, but I just love the action more so than anything.
Yeah, it's good action. It's especially good action here when you don't have spacing. It's a great way to create spacing. When you got 2 bigs on the floor, you can see how good Nick Smith's catch and shoot footwork is. It's a little hop. You can see right here's the catch. He really hops into like both feet. I'm sure he goes left, right, but it's not real pronounced. It's very quick, and he's so athletic that he gets off his feet quick. He has a very smooth transition into his shot. So, this quick twitch, how quickly he's able to get his feet set and get the shot up is very, very encouraging. And we were talking, I guess this after we started recording, but this is a 2-guard kind of score right here, right? Like this is a guy working off the ball, catching, shooting before the defender who takes a very bad angle, goes over the screen, which is really why Smith's able to get this shot off clean. But regardless, it's a very quick twitch action, and something I think he's going to make a lot of money off of in the NBA.
Yeah, this is like Terry Rozier style offense, right? The whole thing is the setting the initial ram screen. Having the screener action work in multiple ways. Like the screener look is having the 2 screen for the 5 before the 5 screens for the 1. but then it's also having the 2 screen for the 5 and then coming off a screen from the 4, right? So like it's happening like ping pong style, back and forth. And yeah, like this is a great way to use when you have like 2 non-shooters at the 4 and 5. This is a great way to involve them in the action. So you've got Jordan Walsh, who's a good-looking young prospect, but isn't a shooter, and so you turn him into a screener. When the Hornets do this, they do this a lot with where they'll have their 4 be the one who sets the screen. It's been Miles Bridges or PJ Washington, and then they'll have it's either been Plumlee or Richards or Mark Williams as the one setting like the sort of like exit or smack screen, like whatever you want to call it, to get Rozier or any of Charlotte's other guards a look from the corner. I like the off-ball read from Smith, who you can't see it really all that well when he's coming off that little exit smack screen from Walsh. But like Sears, like Spencer was sort of highlighting, takes a bad path. He gets caught on the screen and then he tries to cheat over the top. And Smith reads that and he just does the little fades at the corner, like Richie mentioned too. And that's real simple. Like maybe that's sort of like summer basketball camp like drill kind of stuff of like, hey, if the off ball guys defenders chasing over the top, fade, right? Like that's like maybe that's an auto read, but I still like that. And again, he's able to catch. I think it's Mark Sears there who gets smoked on that, and that's Spencer will like that because Mark Sears was on the Ohio team that knocked UVA out of the tournament a couple years ago. So he gets Nick Smith Jr. getting a little bit of payback there. And yeah, like you guys both sort of highlighted the footwork. Like he is going to have to improve on these type of like long distance, like off screen jumpers. But there's some shoot. He's got the shooting touch. There's some movement off ball mover instincts that I think are pretty good. And just this is the kind of shot he should be in the gym, getting up all summer. But yeah, that's good action. It's an NBA type play, and those types of like exit screens, I think starting at least in a 21-22 college season have started to like at least in the men's game like really start to like proliferate more and more in the college game.
All right, the second category, we want to move it along here, is defense. And I did not know anything about Nick Smith Jr. going into this on this end of the court. Now, obviously, just watching a handful of clips is still not going to get the full picture, but there is some good that I saw from him in these clips, especially. And obviously, we're kind of cherry picking some of the better ones. But this first clip we'll let play through here. It's at home against Kentucky in the first half. So we'll play it one time through. Okay, so what I wanted to highlight is first off, good on-ball defense out here on the perimeter. I feel like his hands are very, very active at this point. He's not fouling, but he's definitely jabbing and trying to, create some havoc there. And he does get hung up on the screen a little bit here, but does a good job of fighting over and trying to trail this guy. His head is always on a swivel when he is off ball too. And you see here after the pass is made out to the wing, he does see that guy drive and he kind of digs down. I don't think he actually like strips the ball, but the guy loses control and he disrupts the play to the point to where it is a turnover because the ball goes up and out of bounds. So it wasn't him per se that maybe knocked it out, but I bet you he influenced it in a specific way, Brian.
Yeah. Like overall, I come out like slightly optimistic on Smith once he gets stronger, becoming like at least neutral to maybe like a slight positive defensively. That said, I think evaluating Smith's defense is like pretty divisive. And I don't think he was like it's weird because I don't think he was like good defensively at Arkansas this season, but like he had the health concerns. And Richie, as you were sort of teasing up at the start of this clip, like there are some plays that you watch Smith and it makes you think that yeah, he has the chance to be not just passable defensively, but to at least be like solid, reliable on that end, a guy that you could have on the court in a lot of different situations because he can at least guard his position and he's active helping. He tries on that end. Like say what you will about Smith, some of the issues he has. He's got good hands, which Richie noted, active, really good hands, and he tries. And like at the end of the day, like he needs to get stronger. He's not like a great athlete, So he's maybe gonna be like a little limited there until he gets a little bit more muscular. But at least the energy level is there. You see Smith's ability to that's Oscar Shibwe setting the screen there too. That's not, that's maybe one of the strongest guys in college hoops setting the ball screen there for Kentucky. Smith's able to slink around it and navigate the screen pretty well, and he's able to get back between his assignment, the ball handler, and the basket. Like it's pretty good. Arkansas is in good defensive position here. They're gapped up, but Smith does a nice job being able to recover and get back to his spots. And then you see him able to string together multiple defensive efforts here, because again, that's not just like any that's a good play. That's Chris Livingston, who shakes up, from the corner, catches the ball on the wing, and tries to, get downhill against the bent defense. And Smith is there to make that a more difficult opportunity as Livingston's trying to catch and go against a scrambling defense, and Anthony Black, who's not really closing out textbook style there against that little shake action coming up from the corner. So I would grade this as like a pretty good defensive possession for Smith in a couple different categories.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. If I've said it once, I've said it a million times since I've been doing this podcast. Defense starts with effort, energy, and this guy brings it. I mean, he brings it. He could look at him heating the ball up here. I mean, he switches from left to right hand, like constantly changing his dominant foot there. And then the gap protection is just knowing how to play defense. It tells that this kid is pretty well coached, or has been pretty well coached, and he's taken the coaching. So, I think Nick Smith, he's got to gain some
Right.
strength. He's got to get stronger, to be a point of attack, defender that actually matters. But man, he brings the energy. And so the more that I watch him, I know we've already watched the offensive clips and now we're seeing the defensive. He's really the ideal spark plug off the bench. Immediately and hopefully long term. But man, his energy levels is very, very impressive. And I think that's really highlighted in this defensive clips.
All right, clip number 2, we'll have it play through as well against UConn in the regional semifinals here on a neutral court. And so he starts the possession on ball and has to go through double drag, staggered screen, whatever you want to call it here. And he fights through the top over both of them. I'm going to pause it right here. I think that's Anthony Black that's with him, Brian.
Yeah, it's Anthony Black.
So after fighting over both of these screens, whether it's miscommunication or not, but Black decides to switch that second screen, which might not have been necessary with how close NSJ is able to kind of fight over. But, it's just one of those things where it's instinct. But NSJ definitely recognizes and is very aware that, okay, Anthony Black is here. Let me go back and find his man. And so when they throw that ball back, he does, have to cover some ground, not a lot.
Yeah.
He does overrun this a little bit, but I don't know if it's all that bad, because one, he did have a distance to cover. He probably was thinking that he wasn't going to switch there, and I think he recovers relatively well. And I just think whoever this UConn player is just makes a difficult layup in traffic. So
yeah, Alex Caravan. He's a pretty good player, by the way, too. And like maybe someone we'll talk about in the 2024 draft. He's no slouch, to be clear.
I would just say on this clip, Richie, like I actually think that this was probably by design. They want to unleash Nick Smith to an extent, but you made the point. He overran it. Do not let the ball get to the middle of the floor, because now the whole defense is collapsed. I mean, you took the shell and you just collapsed it. Instead of, if you can run it back like 2 seconds there, instead of him overrunning that, run to that UConn player, run to his left shoulder, force him to go baseline, because now you can collapse your defense towards the ball from sideline to sideline, and there is no kick out option. But when he overruns that, the ball goes to the middle of the floor. There's not great spacing here either. and that's just college basketball in general. But in the NBA, this is going to be a kick out to the corner, wide open three. So he's got to close out as hard as he did, but he's got to have his chest parallel to that sideline he's running towards to force the ball down to the sideline. And we know Clifford and his defensive schemes. And I mean, that's going to be something that I think Nick will learn quickly without playing without taking away how hard he plays, so to speak. But this is just an angle thing. And I said the same thing earlier with him over dribbling in that offensive sequence. All that is just him understanding angles and where his advantage comes from, right? Like your athleticism is going to make up for so many sins. That is so clear. That's why we drafted you. But the quicker you start to understand angles in the basketball court, you're going to become such a better player. So that would be the only thing I would say.
It's an interesting play design from UConn. It's sort of like that, double drag or 77 look within Jordan Hawkins clearing from the right to left. So it kind of, in a sense, it empties out a side there and puts a dangerous shooter to the space to the left of the floor with Andre Jackson, an excellent player, but also sort of just like chilling in the dunker spot. UConn found a lot of creative ways to like use Jackson as a screener and a handoff partner for Hawkins. But it's also like one of the things that I do like about Smith, just to like highlight one last thing here, like the reason why he is closing out to Caravan like that is because like Out Caravan is a really good 3-point pick and pop shooter. Volume, high 30s. And I think this play is called correctly. Like, I don't think it's not a double dribble but like Caravan's like gather on the catch is like kind of weird. Like he kind of fumbles it. It's not a dribble, but then like he grabs it with two hands and then drives. Like it's a little weird. Again, like
that probably confuses him.
It's not a great closeout from Smith. It granted, like something happens with the the screen there between he and Anthony Black, who like sort of decides to switch up the line. I don't know that's really necessary against Tristan Newton, who's like a really nice player, but not like a pull-up, 3-point shooting bomber or whatever. But anyways, there's some sort of miscommunication there. And then, just like the closeout is awkward for a few different reasons, in part because I don't think Smith's like fundamentals are like amazing, but also just like the gather and catch and go from Caravan. Like it's not a double dribble, but it's a little awkward. And again, at least
it was a bad pass too.
And at least you're running Caravan off the line and not giving up an open catch and shoot three or you could also see UConn on some of these looks like they were such a money high-low team here. Like you could also just see Sonogo 21 just like duck in and then have Caravan just look the simple post entry high-low there. So I mean it is what it is. Not a great defensive possession, but I don't think like a horrible breakdown. Or like a misunderstanding.
Yeah, I mean,
either.
That's a great point, Brian. Like this is a lights out shooter, so and this is what is this Sweet 16 here? What is this?
Yeah.
So you've got you've got a few days to prepare, and so Nick Smith sees this guy catching it, and he's doing all he can do is to haul his ass right there and take this away. But just in terms of him adding it to his mental repertoire of like, let me understand where the baseline is and where the sideline is and how I can create advantages from those two lines, is something I think he can really work on.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what both of you said, especially you, Spencer, in terms of maybe not overrunning it. But I totally forgot about that, Brian. When I watched it the first time, I was like, wait, did he just double dribble there?
It's close, man. It's close.
It had to have thrown off Nick Smith Jr. thinking, okay, well, he doesn't have a dribble. He doesn't have a dribble. I can come out hard and try to contest this shot. But that's obviously not what happened. Makes a contested layup there. And here is the third and final clip on defense. We'll let this play through at home, second half against Kentucky. And there it is. So this is late in the shot clock. That's one thing that we talk about a lot, Brian, when we've done these in past. Just pay attention to the clock.
Yeah.
He is one pass away at the top of the key, comes down, and he is really trying to deny, try to kill off more clock. But when the pass is made, this is where I think the mistakes start to come into play. One, he needs to be more aware of the situation. Like I said, I can't tell with the logo. There's that 8 seconds left in the shot clock.
Yeah.
And they've gotten to this point to where they've narrowed it down to 8 seconds. The defense has done a good job up until this point. I think he just jumps a little bit too hard at his man too eagerly, and that allows his man to just sweep on through, takes him out of the play, and Kentucky gets the 2 points. And I guess the end result isn't always what makes a play on defense because we talked about his floater, for example, in the first set of clips where he misses it. But I actually thought the process was good. But I don't think that this process is all that great. And I get it. He's very active. He wants to make a play, but he just gets a little over eager here in this play.
Yeah. It's like you can see Arkansas's really got their defense like turned up. Like the denial and the pressure here is really, really good. Kentucky's in absolutely terrible position with 8 seconds left on the shot clock, and then it's not a closeout, right? Because where Antonio Reeves catches the ball is like nowhere close to like a catch and shoot opportunity. Like he's he's standing on on the Arkansas map here, very close to half court. I'm noticing a theme with these SEC
Yes.
courts here, by the way. And then I just think Smith he's a little flat-footed here. He's not in great position. And look, Antonio Reeves is like a nice player. It should be noted Antonio Reeves was also breathing fire in this game too. This was like probably the best game Antonio Reeves.
Yes,
Yeah.
I remember this game, and I think I bet on Arkansas, and I was like, "What? Who is Antonio
Reeves? Yeah,
Reeves?"
because
Like, he had like 40 almost,
Casey
right?
Walls did not play in this game, I think, for Kentucky, and Reeves went insane. So he's not in a good position, flat on his feet, and just like immediately Reeves is able to turn the corner. Like he doesn't even have to like do anything. It's just like a very easy swing through. And then it's tough because like once he turns the corner, Kentucky's offense has got Arkansas so gapped up or so not gapped up. They're denying so hard off the ball. And then you've got Sheboy in the dunker spot, and then Livingston space to the corner, like he was a good shooter. So it's tough. Like this is not like a great help opportunity for Jordan Walsh, who's a very good defender to come in and help bail out his teammate. But obviously the breakdown comes from Smith, who really game time situation, all that stuff matters, and that's not great like execution or attention to detail there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Brian laid it out perfectly. I mean, the only thing is like, look, Nick is going to heat the ball up. You want him to be able to do that. That's one of his greatest utilities defensively, maybe his greatest utility. But once the defender is denied, and then he gets into your body and gets separation and gets the ball, Richie, like you said, there's 8 seconds on the shot clock. Now, all we got to do is gap up. And if they make a contested, 3-point shot, then so be it. You move on. But like, there's no reason to go back and heat the ball up. And then you can see how good Reeves is here, keeping Nick right on his left hip, and pretty bad form there from the big. But it's just that he is like an Energizer bunny, right? Which is great. He's just got to learn how to channel that. So that second, I'm gonna go get in this guy's jock again. Not needed. There's 8 seconds on the shot clock. Just let your gap defense take care of this.
All right, let's get to our final category here. I'm going to pull up the clips from Summer League. This is just a mixture. There's no rhyme or reason why we did this. It was just any plays that came through Summer League. Some plays are fairly long in this, and this first one is on the longer end, but we'll let it play through for those of you on YouTube that like to see the full play. And obviously, this one is against the Lakers. All right, so
bailout shot, man. God dang.
Totally.
So
where are we on the shot clock?
Yeah,
here?
it's a late shot clock situation, and he receives this little angled screen where he's coming towards the middle, and he kind of jumps to make this pass. I'm not sure if he's like ever looking at Kai Jones here as I pause it. Like, I don't know if he's looking for that. It probably is a difficult pass to make with that double right in front of him.
Yeah.
He ultimately makes the easier pass to Brandon Miller, formerly a competitor against him, at Arkansas and Alabama, now a teammate. And, it's late in the shot clock. He's got to stay ready for a shot. And he kind of drifts away, I guess, to kind of maybe create some extra space, or maybe to kind of not confuse the defense, but maybe think, okay, I'm not a part of this play anymore. But he does kind of create some momentum coming back to the ball, and he has really no option at this point. 4 seconds left. This is probably his best shot. Just rises up smoothly, steps into the 3-point shot. Nothing too crazy about this play, but he does a good job with his spacing after he passes it to Brandon Miller. So
Look at that range too, dude.
I,
Look at that
yeah,
thing,
exactly.
man.
That's
Woo!
that's literally exactly what I was about to say. Um, that range, and you got the perfect freeze frame on that, Richie. His form, he brings the ball down a little bit farther down towards his hip than I would like to see, but whatever. Like if you just play this all the way through, yeah, it's not the prettiest form I've ever seen in my life, but boy, it is effortless. And that range, I mean, that is the number one thing. By the way, this Lakers defensive sequence is like pretty damn
Yeah,
good for summer
they were
league.
pretty impressed. Like they were playing two different systems because like when Colin Castleton was in at center, they were playing drop, and then when they had their other five in, they were like up at the level, which that's what you're seeing here. I think Smith does a nice job. Like initially, like he gets two on the ball, so he gets the
Yeah,
Lakers into rotation. I think he makes a again like Richie was sort of saying like maybe Kai's there, like in space, but you got the low man help defender coming off there too. So like it would have been I think he makes the right read to throw out to Miller. It's not a great pass. Miller's not able to like you would love on those like shake possessions for like when Miller comes up like that like on the catch he'd be a threat to just like let it fire, And he's like a little
right.
bit higher up. He's a little bit further off the line. And then you get just sort of like not great like freelancing here for Miller, but again, I don't think he was put in a great spot either. And at least we've talked about this like with NSJ during the movement offense segment. Like he's willing once he gives it up to keep moving. It's like you see him, he starts possession, he gets two on
Yeah,
the ball, he
comes
spaces out,
back
he
towards
comes
the
back
ball.
to it, and like Miller throws him a grenade here. Like Eric Collins would describe this as a
Yep.
grenade. And so who cares about summer league stats, I guess? But Smith has no problem just like catching and letting it fire.
I'm not. I mean, this is really nitpicking here, but I'm not a very big fan at all. In fact, I hate it. I don't like when guards leave their feet on pick and roll.
Mhm.
I understand what they're trying to do. It's instinct. They're trying to see over the top. They're trying to open up all their options. But you take your passing clock from potentially 2.5 seconds to 1 second, right? So, I don't, and I got a feeling just the way you just watch Nick Smith play, and you're like, yeah, this guy's gonna leave his
Yeah,
feet.
I mean it is
You
a
know, like we're gonna see a lot of turnovers next year of him leaving his feet in pick and roll
yeah,
situations and
it's
not
a, it's
having
a
a plan
tendency of his for sure.
for sure. But yeah, I mean, and two with Brandon Miller, like yes, he throws him a grenade, but I kind of like this from Brandon Miller right here, just because he dribbles down, they're forcing him baseline, he understands he's trapped, and he just gets off the
Yeah.
ball. Like it's simple, right? Like it's just Steve Clifford's gonna effing love this,
Mhm.
right? Like it's like we'll take a shot clock violation before we take a turnover. You know, I
Cliff
mean
ball, baby.
seriously, like I
Yeah.
know that sounds
Yeah.
funny,
No, it's
but
true.
like he does get off the ball and Smith relocates and comes to it and guy's just
Yeah.
fearless, man.
And he
He
hits
is
it. I mean,
fearless.
not only a deep shot, but like a decent closeout from Hood Shafino there too. Like that's a big time hit here from Smith on that shot.
So Spencer, you're saying a shot clock violation is not a turnover in Clifford's eyes?
Live ball. Let's not live ball.
It's like half a
Yeah.
turnover. You set your defense, it definitely will trend towards improving your defensive
I
efficiency,
do
no
like the
question.
thought of like like somewhere in the locker room, like the Hornets have like 4 or 5 like like team tenants sort of like written on the wall. It's like always hustle, die for loose balls, and then the fifth one is like shot clock turnovers only count for half.
Don't
Yeah,
ever be afraid to run out the 24.
yep, pretty much. Well, this next clip, Richie, you can go ahead and tease it up. But this was like maybe my favorite play from Nick at Summer League. This was an awesome play.
I remember tweeting that this is my favorite play of the game. I don't know if I would say it's my favorite play from Summer League, but then I don't really recall all his plays.
Yeah,
But this against the Pelicans, if I remember correctly, they were struggling really bad to score, to shoot. It's
yeah,
30-16 at this point, and
yeah.
I think the Hornets. This is a broken play. They got to find any way they can. Najee obviously creates this offensive rebound out of all people. Obviously, he's the guy that create a lot of offensive rebounds down in Vegas and kicks it out to NSJ at the top of the key here. He's got two Pelicans closing out on him. And I just like how aggressive he is. I think because if I remember correctly, the shots were not falling. He's going to think, okay, let me get aggressive and get downhill. Little fake pass, splits it, and really, he got a 4-on-3 situation, but he has no resistance here. No one really, well, I guess last little second contest there, but gets all the way to the rim, wisely chooses to finish on the left side of the rim. And one thing that I noticed that I did not notice for like the first 3 or 4 times that I watched this was, I mean, it may not made a huge difference, but the seal by Najee kind of at the end here, right about there, to give him some extra.
Dude, he was awesome in summer league. I mean, I think Najee like may have been their best player out in Vegas. He was just doing awesome like fundamental big guy stuff. I was very impressed.
Yeah, it was surprising. I didn't quite expect it. He was really really good. Um, yeah, from this clip, honestly, Richie, the only thing I took like this is like the swagger clip, right? Like that ball fake, just the fact that both guys go for it, and now he just splits them.
No,
Like
it
this is like the Jordan Clarkson thing to me. Like he sees a little bit ahead of the play
mhm.
sometimes.
That's like LaMelo type stuff too, right? Like a chaotic
True.
scramble
Yeah.
situation, the ball fake and to try to open up a drive lane. Like it's, I don't know, really, really nice stuff from NSJ here.
We didn't get to this today in the clips, but I would say the one other thing I was really impressed because I got to run here in a second. I'll let you guys close it out with Nick. His ability to play out of the ball screen is a major major plus for this team. You know, I didn't see him make a lot of high IQ basketball reads in summer league, which I don't really think happened that much anyways, but he threw some pretty sweet lob passes, and keeping his dribble alive in the lane. I thought in summer league that is really really encouraging. Like I talked about earlier, him over dribbling, not wanting to do that,
Yep.
but at the end of the shot clock, his ability to be the ball handler in a pick and roll situation, keep that dribble alive somewhere in the lane or close to the lane, and throw that lob. I mean, he threw some really sweet lob passes in summer league. Like I don't want to bill him as totally this volume shooters kind of scorer off the bench. I mean, I think that's what he is, but I do think he has a role in pick and roll, even if it's in desperation situations. I just want to make sure I got that in.
Yeah, we appreciate your input, Spencer. This was fun. We got 2 more clips to roll through, but Spencer's got to get out of here. But he definitely added some things that didn't notice the first time around. So thank you, Spencer.
All right,
Yeah.
guys, see ya.
All right. Third of the 4 clips from Summer League. Let me play this through one time against Portland. And this was the game, obviously, the Portland game was his best game.
Yeah.
And I think we finished the clips with 2 back-to-back Portland clips, if I'm not mistaken. So first quarter here, 6-0. Got some 21 action with NSJ as the ball handler, using Kai Jones as the screener to get to the middle of the court. I don't think it's the best screen by Kai Jones there.
No, you don't say. Kai Jones didn't set a mauling pick. No way. That's so out of character for him.
And again, it's funny. We talk about screening, and sometimes it's the ball handler's fault. But I think we've seen enough of this where it's sometimes the screener's fault as well.
Yeah.
So NSJ, to me, has to create separation on his own. And to be honest, like he can't get past DeVoe here, number 54.
Yeah.
Does not create a ton of separation, which, whatever. But he does get creative here with this little fake scoop shot, turnaround, push shot, 7 to 8 feet. I think Spencer was talking a lot about his floaters, and I just like the creativity here to try to get a point early in the game. And because the screen is not the best, he's got to make something kind of out of nothing here.
Yeah, no. I mean, it just flows into empty corner pick and roll early in the possession, and like this is one of those things you'd love for Kai Jones to just be able to like actually just be the thing that he can just like handle, but he doesn't really set a good screen, and he doesn't like get out of his breaks quickly here. Like it takes him like
Yeah.
he does it. It takes him a half second to get downhill. Portland's in a deep drop here. And Mike DeVoe, who again, not a great screen by Kai Jones, but like he's got good point of attack defense, good screen navigation. And so Now, Book Night is also spaced a little bit weird here, but like Portland's really packing the paint defensively. Smith is seeing a lot of numbers in the lane. He doesn't have like a great, super threatening passing option. So, um, we'll see like just how scalable Nick Smith ends up being. But he does have some interesting like special shot maker sort of upside, and again with that shooting touch and the creativity, and the different ways you can use him. Very interesting player. That's a tough shot that he makes there. It's probably not something that you want your shot diet to like subsist of, but to have that kind of stuff in the back pocket is interesting. I think for Smith.
All right, let's get to the final clip here. Again, against Portland. This was the fourth quarter that I think he went crazy in. 6 minutes left to play. I'll let this one play out for our YouTube viewers. And we got half the screen covered up by Nate Oates here. All right. Okay, so I think this is also Ram action, Brian.
Like I mean, so not I don't know how they would label this.
I don't know.
This is I usually refer to this as like elbow or horns out. This is something the Hornets did. They did it a lot for Brandon Miller in summer league. They do this a lot with Gordon Hayward too, where they space the middle of the floor. They have the 5 set a screen for him. Usually on the play though, you'll see the 5 will like chase after Miller and will go set sort of like a ball screen for him right after this. And instead, Kai ends up setting like it's a weird play. He sets a flare for NSJ. Miller maybe could have thrown the pass here. Like, he's really far from the hoop, but he's open and he's got a screen for him there. And it ends up turning into like de facto like twist action because he ends up going to get the handoff for Miller, which then serves as one ball screen that's followed up by that second twist action screen there from Kai. I mean, I don't think that's how they drew it up, but that's what happens. And it ends up producing a switch, which is often like what you're trying to get out of twist action too. But yeah, again, this is something they did a lot with Miller, in a bunch of different possession types. But it kind of like looks like you space 2 guys at the corner. It looks like horns. And then you have him come off that little like, sort of like middle off ball screen around the elbow. And he can either like catch and shoot, look to score, or there's usually a chase ball screen there. It doesn't happen here. We're trying to focus on NSJ, but would just say like I love the combo move here from Smith. You see, he's going to end up. He gets the little hesitation, which Spencer talked about earlier, and he follows that quickly by that like that spin move to get not just downhill, but to really get deeper into the paint. And catch Shaden Sharp off balance there, and then again you can see the shooting touch there. So just like one of the better, I thought, sort of like quick combo moves from Smith out in Vegas.
Yeah, I guess the reason I thought it was Ram action because I thought Brandon Miller was going to set a screen. He just kind of like but he kind of just stays right there at the elbow. But there's nothing more that I would add. The combination of moves that he has here, you almost wonder. It's almost like Brandon Miller was not even looking for his play on this. Like it's almost like he was trying to give it right back to Nick Smith Jr. as quickly as possible.
Yeah. It was a weird design. Like again, I don't know quite what was happening. It took them like too long to get into the action, but Smith sort of ends up like bailing it out, I guess, with the spin move there.
And maybe they knew that NSJ was feeling himself at this point, and let's just feed him and see what he can do. And back-to-back possession or back-to-back clips that we show here that he has that little spin move. This one's a little bit different. I think this one's better because it clears out space and it gets him towards the basket instead of kind of like feeding up. So, I think it's, to me, like when I watched Nick Smith Jr. Throughout these clips, it's a combination of the twitch, the speed, and several clips, he turns the speed and the twitch into control, meaning when he rises up for a mid-range shot, it's not too spastic where he's out of control and he can't rise up and shoot that elbow jumper or maybe get a controlled shot off a spin like this one that we just showed. So I do like the fact that he's not just quickness, he's quickness and trying to transfer that into a little bit of control. One question, Brian, before I get you out of here, do you have any expectations from him for the upcoming season in terms of like what his role will look like? Do you think he's going to get minutes? Because I've said on a couple solo pods, I just don't have a lot of hope, not because of him per se, but just because of the way that the Clifford runs things and just, Rozier potentially being that backup point guard. And I just don't really expect much out of him in terms of consistent
No,
play.
totally agree. It's like maybe conceivably there's an opportunity there just because like they're maybe a little strapped for scoring juice, like playmaking juice, that type of stuff. And like right now they don't, they're without backup point guard. And I think if Smith on the point guard, combo guard spectrum, if he was a little bit closer to point guard, you might think, well, okay, now there is like perhaps an opportunity for him there. To your point about Clifford, like they're going to play Brandon Miller a lot next season, right? I mean, I don't think he's going to start, but Brandon Miller's going to play, I think, a lot for this team. It's just hard to imagine a Clifford coached team that I don't think they're a playoff team at all. But a team that probably itself is going to try to make the playoffs just because they're the Hornets and Steve Clifford's coaching them. But like, it's hard to imagine that type of team playing two rookies, like two one and done rookies. Like it's a little hard to see. I think he's going to get some playing time down in Greensboro. I think he'll have a massive role there. I think there is a smaller opportunity for him in Charlotte, but he would have to play like really, really well, I think, to sort of like force Clifford to keep him in the rotation. Like barring like that, I think it's going to be tough for him to see consistent minutes unless like he's really ready to like bring it from day one defensively, and therefore Charlotte, that makes him more playable, and you live with some of the inefficiencies on offense. Short of that happening, no, I don't see like a great pathway in year one. I'm optimistic about him long term. And I like him a lot as a prospect. I think he was a very good pick at 27. But I don't know if the opportunity is quite there. Of course, barring injuries and the season, going south, similar to the way it did a year ago.
Couldn't agree more. I think, he's going to have to force Clifford's hand. He's got to have to play well consistently out of the gate. When he does get the opportunity, maybe there's a way that he can force Clifford's hand, but I don't see it. But that's okay. I think a lot of the clips that we showed show some positive signs, and it's not obviously something that needs to be done right away. It's a project, I guess, if you want to call it that.
Again, maybe the season goes south. They look to trade Rozier. Like, all of a sudden there's an imperative to play the young guys. There's a coaching, the new ownership gets impatient. They shake up the coaching, there's like, there are ways you could see it happening, but like the way things are set right now, it's sort of like tough to see a pathway for him, barring like him just being like, 2 levels above where we think he is offensively, or him like being really ready to be like operationally sound as like a defensive, 1 and 2 at the NBA, like right from the jump.
All right. We appreciate everyone tuning in to whether the audio version, the video version, or both. We thank Spencer for joining us for about 90% of this thing. It was awesome to hear his thoughts on these clips. And this is our third one. We're going to hope to do more throughout the season. Obviously, we're shifting over to Hornets and not Summer League and stuff like that. So be sure to subscribe. Be sure to check out our Substack. And you can find links on our link tree on Twitter at BuzzBeatPod. For Spencer, for Brian, I'm Richie. We will talk to you guys later.